So I would suggest, and with a quorum, that we call the meeting to order.
Okay.
And
Leo,
I'd also,
Leo,
also
did you receive an email I sent you with a script that needs to be read?
oh no, hold on a second. I might have. I'm juggling a couple of things right here at the same time. So give me 1 second, and I will read this thing. Okay. Well, maybe I won't. Okay, hold on a second. Done. Okay. Hi, Leo. Please see the attached script for the Zoom meeting. Okay, here we go, guys. Everybody buckle your seatbelts off. I'm going to read this thing out loud. In accordance with Governor Baker's executive order permitting virtual meetings during the COVID pandemic, the Cemetery Committee is conducting this public meeting today. It says July 1st, 2020, but I think we want to say September 1st, 2021 at 4 p.m. on the Zoom platform in accordance with the town's policy directive and guidelines issued on April 1, 2020 and amended on May 7th. This meeting has been properly noticed with the town clerk. I ask all cemetery committee members, town staff, and presenters activate their video and mute their microphones unless they have something to say or are participating in committee dialogue. For members of the public, when I open the meeting to public comment, please unmute yourself or raise your hand by hitting *9 on your phone, or select raise your hand option by your name in the list of participants. If you are recognized, please state your name and address. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on the town's website. I hereby call this meeting to order. All committee votes will be taken via roll call, and we will start with an attendance roll call of the meeting members. When I announce your name, please reply. Jerry Susie.
Present.
Leo Carroll, he's present. Brian Davidson.
Present.
Rod Rydell.
Present.
Rebecca Purcell. And she, as I had mentioned earlier, she said she's in a hospital and won't be able to make this. Okay, so there we go. Now, the handicap I have before me at this moment is I don't have the agenda in front of me. So you're going to have to bear with me here, folks. I'm going to give me a second. I'm going to look it up if I can find it.
Leo, I think it's election of the vice chair.
Okay. Yeah, just give me 1 second. Yeah, now I will. I'm just going to see if I can pull it up. I'm afraid I can't. So you're going to have to walk me through it. Okay. You know, we concluded last week with you know, the election of the chairman, and now we're going to elect the vice chairman. So is any member wanting to put forward the name of someone to be elected as vice chairman?
Leo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Bruce Davidson as vice chair.
Brian Davidson.
Did I say Bruce? Sorry, Brian Davidson.
Okay.
Bruce is a lot more Scottish, Jerry. That's gives me a good Scottish feel to that name.
Bruce Davidson. Okay, so does anyone else have any recommendations or someone they'd like to nominate? Okay, Brian, Bruce Davidson, do you accept the nomination?
Sure.
Okay, then let's have a vote. And you know, I should have kept the last thing open because it's got everybody's name on it. Okay, so let's go.
Actually, real quick, Leo, sorry.
Yeah.
Should there be a second for that?
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll make a second to the nomination of Brian Davidson for the vice chair of the cemetery committee.
Okay, Ron Rydell makes a second. If there are no other recommendations, let's take a vote. Jerry Susi.
I vote aye.
Leo Carroll votes aye. Brian Davidson.
Aye.
Rod Rydell.
Aye.
And Rebecca Purcell is absent. It looks like we have a landslide victory. Congratulations, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you,
Make
sir.
sure to keep the chairman pointed in the right direction. So, okay, the next item, could someone tell me what it is?
Columbarium Subcommittee Member. So in this case, we have the Columbarium, and of
Yeah.
course, Andrea was on there with Jerry as our subcommittee. Andrea no longer being on the committee, we should be, selecting somebody to join Jerry as we investigate building out a Columbarium.
Does any member of the committee want to nominate themselves for this subcommittee membership?
I'd be happy to join Jerry on that, and if Jerry will have me.
Yeah,
Okay,
I will second Brian's, nomination of himself.
okay, all right, and I assume this is something we have to vote on. Is that correct, Aaron?
If you'd like to take a vote on it, you can take a vote on it. I'm honestly, I'm not sure for a subcommittee if with the vote on appointments, but if you want to do the roll call, and I will confirm with the town clerk, but we can have it on record as such if needed.
Okay, let's do it. Let's just do it so we don't make any mistakes. Jerry,
I vote aye for Brian on the subcommittee.
Leo Carroll, I vote aye. Brian on the subcommittee. Brian,
Aye.
Rod?
Aye.
Oh, again, a landslide. Okay, so we now have a fully staffed subcommittee. Okay, next item on the agenda.
It's deed signings for discussion, but I guess we do that at the end, right, Tish? So should we move on to the next item, or is there a discussion needed on that item?
You can, we'd have a Leo, if you can stop by the office tomorrow and sign the deeds.
Yeah, I'll take care of that. No problem.
Thank you.
No.
The next item, Leo, is our next committee meeting will be October 6th, 2021.
Does anybody have a conflict with that? And I'm going to assume it'll be at 4 o'clock again. Okay. We're knocking these things off really quickly.
The next item, A6, is approval of minutes for August 4th, 2021. So I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as drafted for August 4th, 2021.
Does anyone want to second that?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so I'm going to assume we do a vote on this, right?
Yeah.
Aaron?
Yes.
Okay. Jerry Susi, do you vote to accept the last agenda item?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Leo Carroll does too. Brian?
Yes.
Rod?
Yes, with, again, thanks to Justine for very nice preparation of the minutes. Really appreciate it.
God bless Justine. That's what I got to say.
Thank you.
The next is the highlight of the evening, chair comments.
Oh, geez. Well, I don't know whether this went out or not, but I asked Aaron to send a link to a report that was done by the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation. Did everybody get that link?
It was on the agenda.
So it was on the first agenda that kind of went out. I think there was a link to it on subsequent agendas didn't seem to have the link on it. It was you had to go through the town website to the minutes.
Okay, well, the reason I sent it out was I did a little research to see what other cemeteries were doing about many of the issues that we talk about at our meetings. For instance, ground covers and tree replacement, bicycles in the cemeteries and damaged stones and things of this nature. And I was very surprised to find that that DCR had done an extensive study called Preservation Guidelines for Municipally Owned Historic Burying Grounds and Cemeteries. This is the third edition, and it was done in 2009, but I think it's going to be very helpful to us because it suggests alternative ground covers when you lose your grasses and you begin to get erosion. They have all types of suggestions about things that we're going to be wrestling with here this next year. So I was hoping the committee members would get a chance to look at it sometime in the in the next before our next meeting. But otherwise, I've got a hard copy right here, and if nobody minds, I'll just read the thing out loud to us and I'll show you the pictures as I'm going along.
I would like to prove that you do not do that, Leo.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that's something. This document, I think, in all seriousness, will be very helpful to us. And I hope people get a chance to look at it. The other thing I want to comment on is our thanks to Aaron and Tish and everyone else who was involved in putting the loam down on the three places that we've been working on for the last week. Tish got the Ephraim Wales Bull lot covered with fresh loam, and it looks like it's about 3 or 4 inches of loam and new grass seed. And her work was done about 2 weeks earlier than the others. So after her work was done, Einstein, the contractor, put in loam on along the Vera lot and also on Merrill's lot. Now, unfortunately, we had some pretty significant rain after that happened, so we lost a certain percentage of the topsoil and grass to instant erosion. There's little rivulets where it is, but overall, there is a good cover on top of what was badly eroded area. So our next step on this is to see how it develops in the in the next month or so. What I'm seeing is that the grass has sprouted, and it's very it looks very, very strong under certain covered areas, and in others it doesn't look as strong. But we got to wait for one season to really make a decision on this. So I'm going to hypothesize. I'm going to guess that all of it won't get the type of ground cover that would be most desirable. So one of the things we might want to look into is, if we find scorched places, what other ground covers can we put onto this? We've already got good topsoil, so maybe it's a question of putting in other species other than the mixed festool grasses that we have been using. So that's one. I'm sure Aaron's going to have a lot of comments to add on to that about when he gives his staff report. The other thing I did is, every time it's rained, I've gone over in the morning and taken a look at the bicycle traffic afterwards, because they can see the fresh marks, and it's very interesting. And I guess it shouldn't be a surprise, but I only find 1 or maybe 2 sets of tracks in the morning where someone appears to be a commuter on this. But on the weekends, you seem to get a huge buildup, dozens of tracks. So what I'm seeing is, I think rather than just regular, bicycle commuting, we're seeing most of the the bicycle traffic we're experiencing is on the weekends, which would lead me to believe it's recreational biking for what that's worth. The other thing I want to notice that once, and I'll go back to the erosion, once the topsoil had been driven down onto the surface, the tar surface of the streets, the town, Aaron's crew or the highway crew actually got it picked up and moved away. So that was good because there were some pretty big, mud accumulations on the road. But so we're on first base with this, and we're looking at it to see how it progresses for the next year. I know that we've looked at this before, and we tried two times with the Melvin lot, and it didn't work out as well as we hoped. So I think this one's going to be better because there was a lot more loam put down on top of it. I've also noticed that yes, question.
Well,
Jerry?
Leo, I just wanted to ask, in your explorations of the tire tracks and of the grass, are you taking pictures? I'm trying to kind of picture in my mind what you're seeing, and it would be really helpful kind of moving
All right, I
forward.
can take pictures.
Yeah.
I'm not, but I can. And, it's been raining so much, it's like a daily event. So, yeah.
I think it would be worthwhile.
Pardon?
I think it would be worthwhile to take photographs so we can kind of see the challenges and also see the progress. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Rod Rydell had mentioned that this might be a good way to to check to see whether our signs are effective on the that we're going to put up in the cemetery. So this was kind of just like a dry run for me to see if I can actually track this. His suggestion was I go over there with a rake in the morning and rake it up, but I found an easier way of doing this. But yes, I will take pictures.
Leo, if I,
Okay, and that's
Leo, may I make an additional comment?
yes.
So Jerry, I did take some pictures recently when I walked through the cemetery to look at the Verrill lot and the Melvin lot after the most recent placement of loam and grass seed and the most recent rainstorm. So I do have pictures that will give you an example of the erosion that happens mainly because of the steep grade of the areas that are being that people are trying to reclaim and restore the vegetation. And in just in terms of my thinking about the projects that the committee can oversee and assure, we've got 3 that were done this year. So we have the Ephraim Bowl site, we have the Verrill lot area, and we have the Melvin lot area. So those are the sites that we Tish and Aaron, and through their efforts, they've attempted to restore vegetation. We should monitor that for the next few years to assure that revegetation effort is a success. And so we'll take a good hard look at it this fall, assess how well it's doing, and consider over the winter whether an alternative ground cover might be more appropriate for certain regions or not. And then in the springtime, I intend to come to the committee with a proposal, mainly a volunteer proposal, that if there is additional or types of ground cover that we might want to experiment with, that we as a committee just do it on an experimental basis and do it with volunteer work. And I'm happy to volunteer to do the plantings and even the purchases of that ground cover so that there's no cost to the town. Just want to see if we can actually stabilize those steep grade areas, particularly the ones that are so visible to the public as people drive by. But my idea is that each year we'll take a few projects and focus on those projects, set it as a priority for Tish and for Aaron's group to focus on. But then it's really important to follow it up from year to year and do whatever is necessary to assure that the restoration, takes hold and is stable. So we've got a great start this year, and I propose that in a proposal I'll make to the committee later this autumn, those 3 sites will be the set of follow-up activities for 2022 and then 2023, until we can discharge those sites and say, we have achieved our goal. We've gotten the vegetation restored. We're just not gonna forget about it after, a really good attempt from Aaron and from Tish this year. And I'm sure we're gonna encounter lots and lots of challenges along the way, not the least of which is the rainstorm we're gonna get tonight and tomorrow. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Rod. And I was addressing the issue of the bicycle traffic. So I also, I don't know whether I have the same ones that Rod took. They're probably very similar, but I've also been taking pictures out there each time it's rained, and so we have a pretty good documentation of what's happening as far as our efforts to control this erosion. Okay, so the other, is there any other discussion on this? No? Okay, the other issue I became aware of is I was sent an email that there had been a complaint about the public meetings laws concerning the bicycle trail in back of Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. It's the Reformatory Trail. It's an old railroad track that gets some bicycle traffic on it. Apparently, a committee in town,
Leo,
transportation plan. Yeah.
excuse me, Leo, I don't mean to interrupt, but that topic is relative to kind of D5 committee comments, any information received, since last meeting from the public. So I don't know if you want to jump ahead to that agenda item now, or if you would like to cover that when we get to the agenda later on. I think that would probably be most appropriate. I believe that we do have a resident here in the Zoom meeting that had sent that email, and I think that's probably the most appropriate time to cover that topic.
Yeah, I say that was my last item. So if I think you're the next on the staff report, and I would imagine this was going to be part of the staff report. So I'll turn it over to you now to do your staff report and address this issue.
Yeah, so the staff report, last month we had 15 lot sales. We had 10 cremation interments, 1 full grave interment, and 2 second interments, Sleepy Hollow. And a couple of follow-up items from the last meeting that we've been working on. Headstone restoration, we did receive 3 quotes. We solicited 3 quotes, we received 2 back. Moving forward with one of those proposals, the awarded contractor was Gravestone Services out of New England LLC. And they were awarded a contract with the town for just over $9,000 for the headstone restoration for 2021. Starting the work this fall, and we'll continue through until the springtime. A couple of other things we did meet with Boston Scan earlier and kind of discussed status of the scan records scanning project and the lot card scanning projects. That's still ongoing, and hopefully we'll have that wrapped up in the fall time. A couple of other items, the signs that we discussed at previous meeting, I think last month, have been ordered. Once we received the signs that we had discussed about kind of cemetery visitors in the cemetery, and just kind of reminded folks that it's an active cemetery. Those will be installed. Those are on order. We did receive a updated proposal from Daedalus for the maintenance of the Melvin Memorial that we'll be moving forward with. We did, like Leo mentioned earlier, We did work with our landscaping contractor, Einstein, and as well as some of our in-house staff to do the loaming and seeding of those areas in the cemetery. We're going to continue to monitor those here at the end of the summer and into the fall. We have obviously some heavy rain coming down tonight, and any damage that we observe will be repaired as needed, and we'll do some touch up. And if we have to reseed some areas, we'll do that and continue to monitor that as we move forward into the fall season, and hopefully get some germination, get some growth, and get some establishment of some ground cover in those areas. So that's pretty much it for the updates that we have in the cemetery as far as maintenance items from the last meeting. Ongoing maintenance with Einstein's continues for mowing and weed whipping, landscaping services that Tish supervises. But I don't know if Tish has anything else you'd like to add.
No.
Okay. Those are the updates.
Okay.
Any questions? or comments?
Leo, may I have a
Go
follow-up,
ahead, Rod.
Aaron? Aaron, could you just tell it?
Yeah.
Just follow up on the gravestone restoration. Is the company you wound up selecting, is that the same company that did the restoration the previous year, or is it?
No, it is not. It's a different company.
Okay, and do you know where or what area of the cemetery has been selected for the gravestones that will be restored?
So we provided the contractor and actually everyone that other contractors as well a package. We pre-selected the stones, so it's throughout the entire cemetery that stones will be restored. We typically Tish spent quite a long time along with Eric Shaw out inspecting stones, photographing stones, documenting damage, and essentially prioritizing the stones that were in most need of repair and restoration. So they're scattered throughout the entire cemetery.
Is there a file of that document that we might be able to take a look at, just so we can be aware of what the priority is and where the stones are being restored?
Absolutely, Rod. I can email that to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And another question I'd like to ask Aaron on this very same subject is, I'm going to assume these guys were selected because they're the low bidder. But can you give us a little bit about their background, what other local cemeteries they've worked at, or how they met the threshold qualifications to do this job?
So I'd have to look up their package. I don't have it right in front of me, but they did submit quite a few references.
Hello?
Sorry, can you hear me? Yep. So they did submit quite a few references. They have done quite a bit of work in the Commonwealth and New England, at historic cemeteries and other cemeteries. Done the work and the portfolio that provided us was very professional, and it was well written and submitted, and we felt confident that they were able to kind of meet the requirements that we specified in the solicitation. So, Leo, I can share that with you if you'd like. I can send that to you, what they submitted to us, if you wanted to review it.
Or maybe if you just have a link to a website, I'm sure they show off their experience on that.
Yeah, the company is Gravestone Services of New England LLC is the company. So,
And where are they located?
let me see if I can look that up quickly.
Oh, that's all right.
I don't have the
Spot
business
here.
in front of me right now.
Leo, they're in Bedford, New Hampshire.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay. And what was the value of that? Was it 10,000 or was it 20,000 was the max on that?
The contract is awarded for $9,100.
But you had said, I think the cap last time was $10,000. Is that when you put out the bid to say not to exceed $10,000 or something to that effect?
It does not say that, no. We supply them with the stones and and the requirements of the work and the scope of work, the detailed scope of work, and contractors submit their bids.
Okay, great. All right, well, look forward to it. So you've executed the contract and you have a start date for this?
The fall, weather permitting. So the rain days are delaying the start a bit, but the contract is through the end of the fiscal year, so they have it through the spring essentially of next year to complete the stones that were in the package.
Great. Okay, fantastic.
We'll be working closely with them. Tish will be supervising the work, and we'll provide periodic updates to the committee as appropriate.
All right. Okay, I guess next item.
The next item is the Nolan Perpetual Care Request.
So that item has actually been removed from the agenda. So
Oh,
we spoke
apologies.
with the family. No, that's fine. No, that we recently spoke with the family. They wish to wait until there's a in-person meeting so they can arrive at the meeting and present. So we can move along to the D4, which is a photography request from Harry Klein. And Leo, if you're okay, I'd like to acknowledge Tish. She can give some details on the request.
So I thought Harry was going to attend. I sent him the link to the meeting and he's not here. So I didn't put a lot of attention into preparing much because I thought he'd be here to answer any questions, which was his plan, but he's doing this project statewide throughout Massachusetts that he's just taken on his own to photograph at a high resolution digitally every headstone in the state of Massachusetts 1799 and earlier, just to document them because they are disappearing, because they are historically significant for the artwork and for the stories that they tell. So he is requesting that he be allowed to do that in Concord. So it would be the Main Street and Old Hill burial grounds. He hasn't asked me to provide him any information about who's where, so I think he just walks around and locates the stones. He can get a map. We do have maps of those, and he can buy that book for $7 that we'll give him names anyway. My only concern is that if the stone is not readable in some way due to biological growth or lichen or any kind of material that's on the stone, he cleans it off with soft brushes or plastic scrapers. I don't know what his training level is as far as headstone cleaning or restoration. I'm sure he's as careful as he can be. I don't know. I would be concerned about that. But that's part of what he does.
And just for some of the newer committee members, the reason the request is in front of this group is because we felt it was appropriate. There was enough of enough work that is being proposed and requested that we wanted to bring it before the group. Oftentimes, if we receive a request for incidental photography or a photo, for maybe private use, it's something that on a department level we'd sign off on. But whereas this is a much larger project and potentially commercially published, we felt it was appropriate to bring forward to the committee for review. Typically, I'd say requests for photography is really not an issue, something we wouldn't be opposed to. I would, from an operational standpoint, say that I wouldn't want to authorize anybody to do any maintenance on any stones that we haven't properly vetted. That's why we're hiring a professional. For the last agenda item, we hire a professional company to come in and do stone restoration and cleaning. So that's not something that we would recommend on a department level to the committee. But photography is really, we're not opposed to that.
Yeah. Let me make a comment on that. Is it possible, Tish, when this person shows up and begins the work, that you could spend a little time with him maybe and see when he find a gravestone that isn't legible and see what he will do to try to get a date out of it. Is that something you can do?
I can.
Yeah, okay. I mean, if you're not worried about him, I mean, if the guy pulls out a sledgehammer and tries to put a different date in, then we got a problem. But I think I'm going to guess that he just is going to have a little, plastic bristle brush and try to clean it off to get it so he can actually take a picture or something. But we just want to make sure.
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
I have more concern, like when I looked at some of his, the file folder links and stuff, he talks about putting counter pressure on the back when he's putting pressure on the front, and that he uses, the plastic scraper, but sometimes it is a little stiffer. He calls it a stiffer brush, whatever that means. I mean, I love the project, but I think that, really if he comes, that it should be, you can't touch the stones, you can photograph them and make a list. If there's ones that he can't read, make a list, and maybe we can make that somewhat of a priority next year when we're having the stones cleaned, and he can come back and we can let him know when those are cleaned and he can take a photo. But I don't know, personally, I have a problem with anybody who's not a professional, touching these stones. They're pretty fragile.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
Well, I guess my reaction is that this sounds like a very worthwhile project. I mean, it sounds like a book that I would buy or be interested in. It sounds like he's also focusing on the icons, the design elements of the stone, not so much the history or who they are. So I'm enthusiastic about supporting this project. At the same time, I hear Tish. I think that Brian raises an important point that, like, hey, leave the stones alone. If there's any that are a problem, point them out to us and we'll deal with them. But yeah, because we're responsible for those things.
Yeah, I'll say with Jerry, I agree to a large, very much agree with you on this, but there is a lot of annual biological growth on these things that just a brush will knock it off without damaging the stone at all. So that's why I was asking Tish to go with him. I mean, if the guy, tries to jab it in too far, then she would say, you can't do this. But I think if he's just kind of brushing it off, I know I go to my own relatives' graves and sometimes there's, enough of a new moss growth on it. I just kind of wipe it off with my hands, and I don't think I'm damaging the stone at all. So I think there's a degree of common sense that's needed in this. And I think Tish, if she just saw the guy working, would get a good understanding if he knew at which point you're going to damage this thing.
Leo?
Yes,
I'm gonna have to disagree with you on this.
okay.
I don't favor the idea of putting all the responsibility on Tish.
Okay.
I think that Brian's proposal, and which Jerry supported, is one that I support too, which is we're delighted, we're happy to have him come and take pictures. And if there's any that are illegible, he should note that, let us know, and we can address it. It's going to take him years to finish this program. So there's plenty of opportunity for him to come back after we assign certain stones to be cleaned by people that are professionally trained and are willing to take on the liability. I just wouldn't want Tish to look at someone who does a super careful job when she's there, and then feels he has freedom. And I just don't want to put that burden of liability or responsibility on Tish.
Okay.
So common sense should always dictate, but in this case, I think the rule of do no harm is probably one that's really important for us to think about, particularly with these very fragile gravestones.
Right. No, I guess I don't have that strong enough argument, but what I what I am concerned about is if we find ourselves constantly saying no to everyone, then people just go do what they're going to do anyway. So I'm trying to avoid those types of situations, but I understand what the three of you are saying, and I'm fine with it.
So I would make a motion then to accept the photography request of Harry Clean with the caveat that he not, touch any of the stones in any manner during his photography process.
I second.
And I'll second that. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so let's take a vote.
Aye.
Jerry? You? Okay, Leo, aye.
Aye.
Brian? Rod?
Aye.
Hey,
Okay, unanimous. Okay, and then
I believe.
I have now gotten my screen the agenda. So now that we're down to the last few items, I can actually read.
Excuse me, Leo. I
Yes.
think there might have been I saw a hand raised from Mark Galis. I don't know if there was a comment on that. I don't know if you want to acknowledge them for a comment.
Who made,
Mark Galis.
I didn't hear the comments.
He has his hand raised to make a comment. You want to give him?
Oh, yeah, would anybody like to, would anyone like to make a comment on this?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, okay. Thank you very much. Mark Alis, 62 Prescott Road. I just want to say I support the vote that was just taken because especially if the photographer is focusing on pre-1799, some of the slate, it kind of becomes delaminated and easy to bend. It could break easily. Some, I don't know if prior to 1799, any marble was used, but some of the marble disintegrates. You can brush off crystals. So I think you made the right decision. I support that. Thank you.
okay, thank you very much for your comment. So now we have committee comments relative to issues contained in this agenda or feedback received from residents since the last meeting. Now let's go in order. Jerry, you have any comments you'd like to make?
I guess the only comment is that I guess Brian and I will work with Justine to put out a notice of a subcommittee meeting, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Brian?
Some comments, but it's probably regarding the letter, Leo. So I'm just going to take a pass for right now and probably comment on the letter. Thank you.
Okay. Rod?
Just to provide the rest of the committee with an update, continuing to do the survey and the cataloging of revegetation and restoration potential projects for future consideration by the committee. And have worked with Leo to look at the topology of Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, not the knoll, but just Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. And in doing so, based on topology, have divided the cemetery into 5 general areas. And I'll be reviewing that with Aaron and with Tish to make sure that the divisions that we've come up with actually make practical sense. But one of them is in the New Hill burying ground. And I just want to make sure that we have that whole area captured topologically, because I'm continuing to gather information to prepare a grant proposal to give to various granting agencies or funding agencies to see if we couldn't get a substantial amount of money to help with all of the repair and remediation work in that area and use it as kind of a first effort to try and get additional funding for the cemetery. That's the update for everyone.
Great. Thanks, Rod. And I just have one other thing that came to mind, and that is that because of this, all the rain that we've had, we've got a bumper crop of crabgrass. And I had a conversation with Tish recently, and she's hoping that we can come up with some type of alternative ground cover, because she is trying to sell lots in the in the newer part of the cemetery, and it's just it's a little bit embarrassing, the condition of the crabgrass taking things over. And I hope we can come up with some type of a solution, because crabgrass is to me, it's acceptable right about now, but after that first frost, it's dead, and it really does look pretty ugly. So that's another issue when you're looking at the types of ground covers. What can we do with not only the authors raised in the old part of the cemetery, but in the new part too. So if there are no other committee comments, then I think we can go on to D6, the public comments. Anyone from the public have anything they want to say? And Aaron, okay, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Oh, but I can wait if somebody else needs something.
No,
to say something.
no.
Okay. Hi, again, it's Mark Gales, 62 Prescott Road. Thank you very much for your service, both staff and volunteer members of the committee. I really appreciate it. And as always, when I get a chance to attend the committee meeting, I learn a lot. I just wanted to apologize for any confusion with the letter that we sent. The main point was just to make sure the committee was aware of some activity going on where basically we see a few individuals and some outside interests, outside organizations outside of Concord, raising the question of whether the sort of natural reformatory branch trail should be subjected to a design feasibility study for being converted into a paved bikeway, with a lot of tree clearing and et cetera, similar to what has actually been kind of voted in Bedford, up to a little past Route 62, but not also all the way to the Concord line. So the main thing is just to make sure that people are aware, because sometimes things that have a direct or an indirect impact on certain areas of town, people are not aware of it until things are kind of set on rails in one direction or another. In this case, at least in terms of quantity and routing of cyclists, it might have a relevance and be worth thinking about, and for people to become more informed about, because that takes time. I mean, we're all very busy. As far as any OML thing, I'm sorry that things got wrapped around the axle. My wife is very particular about exact fine points of OML, but there was never any suggestion that the agenda should be changed, although theoretically it could be changed, modified. It was just really a heads up. That's all. So thank you very much. I appreciate your work and opportunity to speak.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you. And just so I understand, then you're not requesting that we put this on to have a discussion about it right away. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's totally up to you. And of course, as was pointed out in some of the emails back and forth, one thing is to acknowledge some correspondence or a public input, and without kind of deliberating over it. Another one would be to put it on an agenda and deliberate. So we're just giving a heads up, and it's totally up to the committee what priority they want to give it. But we just felt it's important we didn't feel comfortable not being sure that you were aware of some of this, so you could look into it or not, or think about it with enough time, because sometimes things come to a decision point very quickly after simmering sort of under the radar. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I guess now there's a summary of the follow-up items. And
Leo, you have one more public comment.
What's that?
There's another person who would like to speak. Ned Perry.
Oh, okay. Who's that?
Hi,
Please
Leo.
speak.
This is Ned Perry, 362 Bedford Street, out beyond you a little bit.
Hi, Nick, how are you?
I'm well.
Yeah.
And you? As far as crabgrass goes, there's no one better in town than Tish to take care of that. So you
That's
have
right.
the right person. You have the right person looking at that. I also want to commend Rod and the full committee for the Old Hill Burying Ground work that you're trying to do. I think with the 2025 celebration coming up in several years, I applaud all of you starting now and working on various ways of ground cover because that particular burying ground is so prominent during parades and celebrations around the square that it would be really great to have it looking a little bit better. I know that Aaron and Tish and the crew does as best they can, but it has suffered recently as the areas you're working on in the main cemetery. So thank you for your work, and Rod, cheers to you for looking at funding for that. Thank you for the opportunity to comment, Leo, and keep on going.
Oh, you're welcome. And I was just like to say that I agree with you 100%. Tish does a terrific job, but actually Tish came to me and says there's something we can do about this crabgrass. So we're gonna start looking into alternatives or something to do about it. We don't have answers, obviously, and it's taking over. And so that's one of the things we hope to accomplish this year is to look at alternative types of ground cover to have it so that there's something on the surface all year long.
Well, we live right across from the entrance of the new part of the cemetery, and I work very hard trying to keep my side of the street looking as well as Tish keeps the cemetery looking.
Yeah,
So, and it's a lot of work, and she's over there all the time working on it. So thank you.
there's no doubt in my mind. And I also live across the street, but I also have a bumper crop of crabgrass this year. So we're all suffering from the same thing, and hopefully we'll be able to come up with some type of a solution. So is there anyone else that wants to make a comment? And then a summary of the follow-up items. I guess with the
Leo, we got,
yes,
I think Jerry wants to make a comment.
say that again. Hello.
Okay. Okay, so Jerry said he doesn't have a comment, but I did want to follow up on Ned's comment about Old Hill and the South Burying Ground. And Ned, just to state, we had not included those areas at this time for our plans. We've been focusing on Sleepy Hollow, but in the context of your comments, I'm going to expand our grant proposal to include those two areas as well, and we will expand the assessment to those areas. I've been focusing on Sleepy Hollow, but there's no reason to not include the Old Hill and the South Burying Ground with the New Hill Burying Ground and make it a sort of a major historic historic cemetery grant proposal. So we'll go ahead and do that.
Okay, Rod, great. That's good. And I mean, as one last comment, I'd like to say I'd like everyone who's interested in this to ask around and see what the consensus is on what you do with this crabgrass. I know as I look at the Old Hill Burying Ground, it's beautiful right now. There's all types of green up there, but I think after the first frost, there's not going to be a surface left up there, anything green on the surface. So, we're trying to gain knowledge, and so the more people that have experience at this and can talk to us about, I think the better off we're going to be. So I'm going to leave it at that. And then I'd like to just item D7, a summary of follow-up items. As Aaron said, we're going to have the gravestone restoration contract out, and in the fall or up until up until July of next year, the contractor can come in and do the work. And so I'd like to see some of that. So Tish, if you could let me know when he's coming in, he or she, I'd like to see them. And the other item for follow-up is that the electronic records are going to be done, wrap up in fall. So we'll continue to monitor that, and the signs will be coming in shortly. And then Melbourne Memorial, the bid is in, so we'll follow up with that. And then we're going to continue to watch the seating that has been put in, and determine how to measure success on this. Let's look at it in months from now, a year from now, and see what works. So having said all that, it is a little about 5:15 now, 5:05, somewhere in that range. And if no other comments at this point, I'm going to suggest we adjourn.
So make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, Rod made a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second,
Seconds.
I'll second that.
Okay, I guess we have to vote to adjourn. Okay, Jerry, you want to adjourn?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Leo, you want to adjourn? No, let's sit around and chat. Only kidding. Okay, I say we adjourn. Brian?
Adjourn.
Rod?
Aye.
Okay. Bye-bye, committee members. Via con Dios. See you next month.